Hey guys, welcome back to Jody Hughes Music, and today's video is not going to be a picking video, it's going to be a talking video. And I'm entitling this, What Made Earl Scruggs So Great, So Wondermous, So Incredible. You know, he's the guy that all of us bluegrassers look up to, and so I kind of wanted to break it down, like what does Earl Scruggs is playing, what did it mean for me, what do I hear when I listen to Earl Scruggs, and you know, what makes him a legend basically with the banjo. And so I'm going to talk about that today. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, please do so. That'll just keep you chimed in here. I think there's a little bell. You can even ring that and you'll get notifications. Just because you're subscribed doesn't mean you necessarily get notified. So you have to click that bell as far as I understand. And also, if you haven't checked out my Patreon, go do that. But let's go ahead and get into Earl Scruggs. I want to just kind of give you a little checklist. And number one, I don't think you can talk about Earl Scruggs without talking about tone. I mean, man, he's just the king of tone. And all these years later, people are still chasing the Earl Scruggs sound, and they're trying to get it, and they can't get it. It's unattainable, right? It's this kind of thing that's unreachable. It was in the man's hands and his practice and his playing. And you know, we can get close. There's certain people that I think have gotten pretty close, but they're just not, there's not there, right? And it makes sense. You know, in any kind of music, there's people that try to emulate others, and they always kind of fall short a little bit, because there's something unique about an individual in the way he speaks and talks, and it comes through their instrument as well. So for me, Earl Scruggs just has this incredible smooth sound, and it's really clear. The clarity's there, and it's just really smooth. And he's got, you know, sometimes people call it the X and Y position on the banjo, where, you know, he moves his hand closer up towards the neck on the back up, or when he moves up the neck and then he's back here, and it cuts through the band. And he's just got that incredible sound. And, you know, when he's doing backup, he's not drowning out the singer. He's just blending in really well. And I would say, you know, I was thinking about the word to describe Earl Scruggs. And for me, that word is balanced. As I think he's just so balanced with his right hand. And I really like the Earl Scruggs sound when he moves up the neck. For me, that is the sound that I you know, identify him with. And of course, when he gets on that low 4-string and he's doing those beautiful slides like he did in Hot Corn, Cold Corn. You know, I urge you to go check out the Live at Carnegie Hall album. Go listen to things like Hot Corn, Cold Corn, Little Darling Pal of Mine. I mean, that is some killing tone. And of course, Foggy Mountain Banjo. But also, I had a note here too that, you know, when you're listening, understand on a lot of those albums, they were tuned to G sharp, and that does affect the tone. And I'll never forget when I was like 15 years old, I didn't know this, and here I am, you know, got my banjo tuned to regular tuning, and I'm playing along with, you know, the Foggy Mountain Jamboree album, and I'm like, boy, something ain't right. Besides my picking, it's my tuning. So yeah, just you know, go check that out, and you know, you'll hear that too. You'll hear a difference in the tuning from G sharp to G. And myself, I've always preferred the, let's say, standard or even lower sounds in tuning. So I much prefer that, but there is a brightness there with that G sharp sound that, you know, you don't get any other way. So keep that in mind when you're listening. Number two, timing. Of course, we're going to talk about timing when it comes to Earl Scruggs. There's just not much to say there. I mean, I can talk about it, but really just go listen to it and you'll hear. You know, the first thing for me is Earl Scruggs never really sounded like he was struggling. And for most of us mortals here, we frankly sound like we're struggling sometimes. And it just really sounds like he's just so effortless at any speed. And I would just say that Earl Scruggs did take chances, but he picked things that were, I would say, well within his grasp. And so he stayed very solid with his timing throughout all of his playing. I don't like to get into discussions about swing or straight or bounce and all those things, because I think that's where arguments become arguments. And you know, you really just got to go listen to his sense of timing if you want to try to, quote, emulate it. You just got to go get the recordings. For me, you know, I listen to Earl Scruggs and I can hear the sound. The timing is a little bit different from era to era. Say, you know, with Bill Monroe versus Flatt Scruggs versus, say, you know, later on with his sons and even further. And for me, those early Flatt Scruggs albums, there's just something about the timing on there. And I think your timing does change depending on who you play with. The band, of course, you know, they push or pull maybe. And for me, I just really love the Earl Scruggs sound with those early Flatt and Scruggs albums. I just think that that is so incredible, and I prefer that in more so than, say, the earlier Monroe stuff. And I know some people really like the Monroe stuff, but for me, it's that Flatt and Scruggs stuff, man. I just think it's killing. Number 3, fast. Earl Scruggs could play so fast. Oh my gosh. And when he played fast, it just sounded so effortless. And I think that's the thing I want to reiterate is there's lots of fast players, but most of them don't sound so effortless. And it can even be confusing. Sometimes you'll listen to Earl Scruggs and you'll think, hey, it does not sound like he's playing that fast. But then you try to play with him and it's like, my God, because he's so smooth and he's just so flawless with it. And, you know, you just got to hold on to dear life if you're going to try to keep up with Earl Scruggs. And there's so many banjo players to this day that are trying to play fast, but they can't obtain that tone and timing that Earl Scruggs obtained with his playing at those warp speeds, you know. And some of that stuff, I found some old recordings of him on the Opry with Monroe. I mean, the really old ones, and my gosh, are they playing fast on that. It is insane. What am I at? I'm on number 4. I got to make sure I can count here. Number 4, taste. You know, the melody's always there somewhere lurking in the background. He doesn't necessarily always pick, you know, exactly the melody as you would sing it 100% of the time. Sometimes you can't really do that anyways with the rolls, but you know, he's not always playing the words, but you can still hear what the sound of the song, you know, is. You can hear that melody, and when he does veer from the melody, I think it's within reason, of course, you know. That's what makes him so great. I think there are some moments in Earl Scruggs' playing where he got a little bit further away, right? You know, like, and I like these things. I'm not talking bad about him, of course. I'm just saying that there were some moments where it's like, oh, kind of surprised me. That Foggy Mountain Special album or song, when he does the little octave run up and he's moving up chromatically, you know, that was kind of unexpected, if you will. And then there's that little quick pull-off lick in Pike County Breakdown. If you've never heard that, he kind of lays into it and he lets it go for a couple times there. He kind of sounds like he's hung up there. That's what my buddy used to say. He said, Earl was hung up on that lick. And those little moments, though, those are the surprising moments, and they're jewels of, you know, his sound there. I gotta flip my paper over. I didn't want to forget anything. So, and this one I thought about this one a lot. And this next one is, I don't think Earl Scruggs was predictable at all. You know, you might guess what some of the licks are that he's going to play, but I don't think there's a formula to create, you know, I'm going to sound and play like Earl Scruggs. I will say that I'm pretty good at emulating a variety of players. Like if you say, play this in the style of Don Reno, or play this in the style of Alan Shelton, of course, who was my favorite banjo player, I can give you something. But if someone says, play this in the style of Earl Scruggs, I have to think a little bit more in depth about that. It doesn't just come to me right away. And I would say that I would probably be further off than maybe what he would play that. And I think it goes back to what I said earlier, is that he chose certain melody notes to play and certain ones not to play. And I don't think that I could choose that in the style of Earl Scruggs, is I guess what I would say. Just even if you know the vocabulary, it's kind of hard to piece together what he might use, because every now and then, if you study his playing, he throws in some weird off-the-wall right-hand roll pattern that you just didn't expect. It's just out of the box. You know, listen to Earl Scruggs on Shucking the Corn, even that little C7 roll pattern he threw in there. That was kind of weird, and you know, it's like, where did you get that at? That wasn't expected. That kind of came out of nowhere. So for me, I think there are some rolls, right-hand roll patterns that Earl Scruggs played that, you know, they were just really his own, and they can't be broken down into the, you know, the main roll patterns. This is the big one for me. Like, if everything I'm telling you here, this is the one that I think that made him the greatest. I think out of everything I've said, that this is the one that I think about, and I'm just like, my God, he was a genius when it came to this, is that he was a backup team player. You know, I can kind of look at his influences like Snuffy Jenkins and Mac Woolbright. If you haven't heard Mac Woolbright play Home Sweet Home, go listen to that. You'll hear where Earl Scruggs got some of his stuff, and Snuffy Jenkins and all those old guys. And I can kind of hear where he got some of his lead melody playing, but boy, his backup stuff, you know, he had to kind of create that. And I certainly wasn't there when Bluegrass was created, and maybe he had some influences for those backup licks, but you know, to me, it's kind of escaped us. I don't know where he got it at. And for me, this is the genius of Earl Scruggs, is I can just look at a lot of his stuff and I can say, oh, he got that from this guy, or he got that from that guy. But the backup stuff, and to know that it would fit together in an ensemble and sound like it did. That is just the amazing part of Earl Scruggs to me. And I don't know if it was a process for him. I know for myself it was, but I don't know if it was a process of, oh, I'll try this and it didn't work, so I'll discard it. Oh, this did work, so I'll try it again. So there was probably a long period of time of filtering, but then again, you know, he hit his stride pretty early. So maybe he just had it in his ear and he heard it right the first time, you know. And I would just say that there was no model, you know, to say, let's fit this into a bluegrass Bill Monroe style in the beginning. So he had to do this himself. And you can hear it evolve over time, and his backup became more and more complex and, what's the right word? Not complicated, but basically, you know, very complex. Complex is the right word. Just because it's complex doesn't mean that it's, you know, crazy. It just means that he thought about it on a deep level. You know, you go listen to Salty Dog Blues, and he interjects those little high licks in there right when the vocalist is. And I mean, it's just perfect. The sliding licks on Foggy Mountain Banjo, that stuff is just wonderful. And man, I just think that that is what makes him great. And this next one is funny because he wasn't a darn bit funny. Who was it that said that to him? I can't remember if it was Bill Monroe. I think it was Earl Scruggs. Told him he wasn't a darn bit funny. I mean, basically what I mean is that all those guys up to that point, like Uncle Dave and String Bean, they were comedians. And Earl Scruggs, you know, he didn't get up there and jump and gyrate all over the stage. And he was pretty, I'd say, quiet and reserved. And he let the banjo do the talking. He didn't have to carry on and be an entertainer other than, here, buddy, I got your banjo. I'm going to hit you upside the head with my playing, and you're going to listen to this. You know, he didn't have to talk a whole lot. You know, and the other thing that you have to understand, too, is he did this in the context of bands. He became world famous. It wasn't the Earl Scruggs band. It was Flatt and Scruggs and Bill Monroe, and people took notice of his playing without having, you know, being the headlining act, let's say, even though he was kind of like, you know, he was the headlining act as far as the music there goes. And I would just say that, you know, he didn't have his own band until much later, of course. But yeah, I think that's something else to be admired about him, was that he didn't have to put on a big show other than just play the banjo. And I think that that is insane and fabulous, especially in today's world where it's so much about theatrics, let's just say. I'm going to give you some quick achievements of Earl Scruggs. I don't want this to be like too long, so I'm going to get out of here. But I just want to give you some quick achievements. Maybe you're not aware of this, but number one, Foggy Mountain Breakdown, Grammy on that one. Ballad of Jed Clampett, #1 on the Billboard charts. Most of us have heard that one. Flatt and Scruggs had 50 albums and 75 singles. Oh my God. I don't know how many years that's over, and I'll be honest, I didn't know that. 50 albums. You know, people now, they struggle with 4 or 5 sometimes, and putting out 50 albums, that is some serious madness right there as far as I'm concerned. I don't know what was considered normal at that time, but I mean, I can think about Reno and Smiley. They put out a lot of albums too, because I got a lot of them. 4 Grammy Awards later on, so lots of Grammys. Country Music Hall of Fame, and this next one kills me because I've been there and I just didn't know to look for Earl Scruggs. Hollywood Walk of Fame. I feel disappointed. I should have went and looked for him. I wonder where he's at on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I didn't look for him, and I was there, and I should have found him. I'd love to have a picture of that. But man, Earl Scruggs, what a incredible legend. I mean, you can't say anything else, I don't think. I mean, there's not enough words to describe the impact that he's had on the banjo and bluegrass music. If it hadn't been for Earl Scruggs, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing right now. And for me, I think back to all the time I spent learning his recordings and learning his sounds. And for me, I think the thing that I overwhelmingly got out of his playing was, one, try to play with good tone, try to make it clear, and number 2, play at the right time, at the right moment, and that backup stuff. And I just don't think that anyone will ever be able to recreate the energy and incredible complexity that he brought to the music with, you know, just the sounds that he did. Anyways, just want to say thanks once again for tuning in. If you've stayed tuned this long, hopefully you've enjoyed what you like. You can give me a thumbs up, and also hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. I'd love to have you here. Hit that notification. That's going to let you know when I put out these videos, and I'll be bringing out some more banjo picking videos. I'll have a banjo in my next video. Some of you maybe want to see me play or teach, so stay tuned for that. If you haven't visited my Patreon, go do so. But anyways, you guys take care and stay safe.